Yeah, we can talk more.
Oh, we're live? Okay. Well, hello and welcome to another video. Welcome to another live stream from the only source of information you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And today we're going to be finishing up our expat series, talking about people who have left the country of origin to travel to another country for one reason or another. And with situations that are going on around the world, it's obvious that a lot of people are making that move out of concern for the future. So today we're talking once again to Sandra and Dave, who host a YouTube channel called The Adventures of Dave. Isn't it Dave and Sandra? Is that it? The Adventures of Sandra and Dave. Okay, so that's out there. I'll put a link in the description so that you can find their channel. I actually was watching their videos, so I'm their subscriber. They only became my subscriber afterwards. But they have a lot of information about traveling out of the country, information about a lot of stuff, information about living a simple life, information about truck campers, which is the thing I was mostly watching. And so I guess we'll get started. We are doing part two because I had quite a bit of information we didn't cover last week, but this information is basically a repeat of the information we already covered. The first thing we're talking about is scriptural perspective. Now, when I started this, that was the thing I was thinking about: is where are we in the stream of time, and when is this world going to get fixed or done away with? And so that's when I started looking into traveling, becoming mobile, so I could kind of hide, looking at different locations where I could go. And I guess that had to be part of what you were thinking, right, Sandra?
I would say that Dave and I kind of, I don't know, had like an awakening almost. I hate using that word, but it works. So back in what, like 2006 or something, is when we started sort of, we started seeing kind of that like the world was there was a lot more going on than what we had originally really comprehended. And um, we kind of went through that whole phase of thinking that we were going to find some place to like escape or, hole up or whatever. Um, I don't know, back when we got the Caravan place, sort of, right? I mean, about 2009, we found the place that we have in Texas out in the country. And that was sort of our idea, was that we were going to create this place where we could, weather the storms or whatever.
Be more self.
Yeah, and be more self-sufficient and just work on that sort of thing. And so we did that for a number of years. But over the course of that time, I don't know, for me, I can say for me that I'm not really too worried about being prepared in the sense of like being someplace and I'm gonna like live off the land and, that kind of thing. To me, it's been more of a like, hey, time is limited, and I really realize that now more than ever. I mean, all of this has sort of coalesced to make me realize like my own mortality even. So it's like I'm just going to live my life, and whatever fate or whatever happens wherever I am, I'll just deal with it, right? I'll just deal with it there. I'm going to be like strong up here so that like it doesn't matter where I'm at or what happens. I'm just going to deal with it and live my life, And
Yeah, well, when I started thinking about stuff, it just seemed to me that cities weren't a safe place to be, and complete dependence on the system for food didn't seem the thing to do. But I was young and I wasn't healthy, but I was healthier than I am now. And so I was able to go out there and force myself to plant fruit trees and to build chicken coops and to do all that kind of stuff that you do to be self-sufficient. And a hurricane come through and wiped it out. And when it did, I was an old man.
Yeah.
And then that was it. What am I going to do now? All my fruit trees are under piles of fallen pines. It's not like I have anything that'll feed me now. And, I'm like, okay,
you kind of accept that there's just so much external circumstance that there's no way for you to truly plan for anything. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta just kind of accept whatever
Yeah.
that's going to happen and be okay with it and try to be prepared. There's nothing wrong with, like, you know, being a strong person and whatever. That's going to be helpful to you no matter what. And
Yeah, well, you know, there were people that lived in ancient Egypt and they built all the pyramids, and somebody somewhere had to say, wait a second, there's not enough food to feed people anymore. What are we going to do? Well, at that point, who cares? It all collapsed, and then Assyria rose to power, and we're just another empire, you know, and of course now we have airplanes and ships, so we can go to other countries and steal their food. But now the other countries we steal food from are running out of food. So the whole thing is that there has to be an end to nonsense. You can't just be consuming, and not caring for the earth and expect it to go on forever.
yeah, we feel like there's a downward trajectory, definitely, and that it's increasing in speed and size exponentially as time moves forward. So it's not looking good, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and you know, all of that, the thing that's going on with the medical system in the United States is just another part of all of that. I mean, it's just like there's so many little parts and they're all part of it, and different ones affect different people, and that just happens to be the one that's finally pushed us over the edge, I guess you might say, where we're
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go to Mexico.
Yeah. I was
We don't
thinking
have
about
to-
what y'all said last week about how if you're in America and you want health care, you pretty much have to go to Mexico to get it. And if you're in Mexico and you want health care, you pretty much have to go to the U.S. to get it.
Yeah.
It's like, what a bizarre thing. You know, why?
Yeah,
why?
it's certainly not lost on us that we have the benefit. A lot of that comes from the fact of what came before. You know, like we can come down here to Mexico and live really well, but that, you know, it doesn't mean that that's going to work for everybody. That kind of came as a consequence of us living where we did in the United States first. So, you know, there's always that, that like, you know, I don't know. You know what I mean? There's like people down here that are living at a much lower income level than us. And they might love to go to the United States because they think that, you know, they'll be able to like help themselves in the way they want to by going there. And meanwhile, we're coming down here.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
You know, it's ironic.
This is the way the world works. It's really goofy. And this is a true story. I just told it yesterday to a friend. This is why this cannot go on. This is why this cannot go on. Everything is driven by greed. Greed is not a good policy for survival. And so I had a friend when I was a Jehovah's Witness. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He drove a truck for a living. He was sent down to Florida to get a truckload of oranges to bring to California. Now, in my head, I'm like, why would you drive oranges all the way from Florida, which produces oranges, to California that produces oranges? It makes no sense. Those people down there I can't tell the difference between a California orange and a Florida orange. Nobody can. But anyways, he loaded the truck up. He had no load to come back. So he got there and he said, okay, I need a load to take home with me. And they said, well, just wait here and we'll load you up. What they did, they took all them oranges off of that truck, and they had a crew there, and they peeled the little Florida oranges sticker off, and they stuck California orange stickers on those oranges and put them in California orange boxes and put them back on the truck. And he took the same load of oranges to Florida that he left Florida with. And somehow somebody made money off of that. That's absolutely bizarre. And that is a dead end road. Economically, that's a dead end road.
Yeah, well, we worked and had businesses in the past, and so we encountered and witnessed a lot of, I don't know, behavior that people do to manipulate the system, not always by the rules, for sure, in order to benefit themselves. You know, it's all driven by self-interest, and we saw that all the time. I mean, it's just part of it. It's totally part of the whole culture of it. And anyone who doesn't realize that is fooling themselves.
Well, scripturally, Well, I've always had like favorite scriptures that would just constantly be going through my mind. And I guess a couple of years ago, I was looking up John chapter 1 and verse 1, which says, in the beginning, the Word was, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And I thought that's a really stupid scripture. What did they really mean when they wrote that? So I looked it up in Greek, and it says, what it actually says, in the beginning, there was logic, and God was logical, and logic itself was a God.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. That used to be logic. Now that there's no logic, nothing can work.
Yeah. I don't know. People have what they call their logic, but their logic is to make money, like you said. It's kind of there's a lot of greed-driven stuff, and the people that we have like hired or whatever to sort of be our managers, these politicians and stuff, they're hind leg, I mean, it's just, I don't know how you fix that. So instead of trying to fix it, I'm more concentrating on like fixing this as much as I can, and hopefully trying to live out the rest of my days, peacefully, and that would be nice. And also, enjoying what there is to enjoy. And we had to come to Mexico to do that, because like the medical system up there will just torture him. So that's probably our primary driving force but there are other benefits and stuff as well. And the United States, I mean, we keep up with the news up there, and it's just you almost have to pinch yourself and be like, am I in a Twilight Zone movie, or is this like really happening? And it's being like, a lot of it's moved in little by little over many years. So people just kind of, it's like the frog in the boiling water deal, people just kind of, oh, it's okay. It's all normal. This is just normal. And pretty soon, if you live long enough, you start to be able to see the dramatic change. And you're like, wait a minute, like, holy moly, this used to be free when I was born. And now no one does that anymore because you're not allowed to. So
oh, yeah. You can't even can't collect rainwater.
Being taken away.
Who could possibly imagine that collecting rainwater to wash dishes would be illegal?
Yeah,
and in a lot of places. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. You look at what affects people emotionally, and they're going on and on about who wears a mask and who don't wear a mask, and these people are passionate about that. Mm-hmm. And I go around, if people are looking at me with a mean face and they're wearing a mask, I put a mask on. If people that aren't wearing a mask look at me with a mean face, I take mine off. I just don't want to get beat up. I don't care about their stupid rules. But the other day, some guy committed suicide by cop, and he just happened to be at the White House. And so all of my relatives, everybody I know in the real world is like, did you hear what happened at the White House? And I'm like, oh, some dude committed suicide by cop. Okay, I get it. So if he had done that over here by my house, would it be as important as him doing it there at the White House? No, because somehow that becomes a political issue. And I'm like, first off, political issues are stupider than real issues. And somebody needs to be asking the question, why do people commit suicide? Let's not talk about who's going to overturn that foolishness. Let's make the world bearable for people.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. not relying on the system that we have to do it. That's why I tell people, you got to there's not really a lot you can do about all of the stuff going on, out there. You've got to just turn that energy here, because that's where it's going to make the most amount of difference, probably. And then if you help yourself and you become better able to kind of radiate that out, I think, to other people around you, anyone that you encounter, hopefully, But people are getting crazy. I mean, people in the United States, I think, are, I call it sick. They're so sick. And it's a shame, and it's sad to see.
Yeah, I always say, people look at me because I've got my Bible channel, and I know you've seen a few of my Bible videos, and so they're like, wow, this guy is so strong spiritually. I can attach myself to him, and he can help me spiritually. But I'm still emotionally weak. I'm sitting here every day, some kind of horror visits upon me, and I'm supposed to deal with it. Okay, I know how to pray. But have you ever noticed that when you pray, the stuff doesn't go away? So it's like, you still say sad. You're always upset. You're always worried about stuff.
Yeah.
And, this is not a pleasant place for humans.
Yeah, it's been tough. I think we've been affected by this thing that's going on now with the world, the pandemic and everything. I mean, it's just, no matter how strong you are or whatever, you're dealing with other people and they're all being affected by this too. And boy, what a mess,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, when you try to be logical about stuff, and that's the thing I noticed when I was watching your channel, is that you guys are logical. It's when you're logical that stuff is hard, because you have to be really, really irrational to go along with this system we live in.
Right.
To believe, the Hindus are ruining the world, or the blacks are ruining the world, or the Republicans are ruining the world. Everybody wants to join a team and fight about what's the best way to control other people. I've always been one to believe it's just best to live and let live, and don't worry about controlling other people.
Yeah. That only works as long as until your neighbor starts shooting across your yard or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no lies.
Suddenly you're like, oh man, why? Did they not think about this? Now we've got to deal with it. Oh boy.
Yeah, I've never understood these people that are like gun rights advocates. I like having my gun, but if the cops come to my house and say, "Give me your guns," I'm like, "Okay," because you think about it. These guys that are on the opposing team, they've got nukes, they've got fast to attack stealth drones, they've got a billion mindless soldiers. It's like, how am I going to defeat? If I go out and get the most kick-ass AK-47 they make, I can't beat those guys.
Right. Dave argues with people about that on the internet all the time, because a lot of people who are like, they're getting their guns and cleaning their.
Some people go as far as buying drone bullets for their shotgun. It's like, you're not even going to see the drone that vaporizes you.
Yeah. That may happen to a certain degree, where you have people that are going to come to that level, or whatever. That could happen. But yeah, saying you're going to fight the government or whatever, it's sort of ridiculous at this point, because that way, anyway, it's going to be really tough.
What'll happen is they'll pull into your yard with a remote control Humvee with a 50 cal on the top, and they'll say, guns. You know what I mean? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, the projectile in one of those is like the size of your thumb. That's just a projectile.
Yeah.
Right.
So it'll shoot right through your house. There's nothing you can do. Bring on your guns.
We watch a lot of history kind of stuff, historical, whatever. And, you read about these accounts of these battles back in the day when these people would go hand to hand with, bladed weapons and stuff. I said, now we've moved the killer so far away from the people he's killing that he doesn't have to look them in the eye. He doesn't even have to know what they look like. You know what I mean? He's just.
Oh yeah, I was watching a video one time, and it was a whole bunch of people walking around, looking like ghosts, that black and white FLIR stuff, and all of a sudden you just see bullets going across, and all those people just falling over dead. And they said this helicopter was 7 miles away that shot these people. You can't even see that. No. A helicopter 7 miles away, you can't see that.
Yeah.
The bullets go faster than the sound, so you don't even hear it. You don't even hear it.
This is all been very dehumanized, And that's part of the problem too. This constant dehumanization of people, where we're like separating ourselves from nature and, all of that. I know you talk, about that in context of that kind of stuff, but.
Oh yeah, the fall of civilization is on its way.
It's all part of the sickness, that people are suffering from, and I don't know how to help people. You really go out there on some sort of mission or crusade to change everything. But all I can do is just try to live that way myself, I guess.
Yeah, I always, the whole thing is you can't fix the world. I used to think, okay, I can't fix the world, but maybe I could fix a small group. I could just get a small group of people, teach them how to love one another and share with them and hope that they would share back with me. And I realized you can't do that either. So then I thought, well, maybe if I just pick one person, I can save one person. I've got a house that's paid for, I got a car that's paid for, I got plenty of food. Let's invite one person to stay here. And then I learned you can't save them either. So all you can do is try the best you can to survive yourself. That's it.
Right. And try not to be too big of a jerk while you're doing it.
Yeah, I know. It's just so hard. I don't have a problem with being mean. I just have a problem with being sad all the time.
Yeah. It's tough. I get really down on all of it too. You can ask him. Some days I'm just like,
Hey, sometime when I'm praying, I'm
gazing into the crevasse of like infinite darkness or something,
Well, like you said too, it's like even your own mortality. I'm like, I'll be 60 years old in a little over a year. 60 years old. That's like every time you hit one of those numbers that's got a zero after it, it kind of shakes you up. And I'm like, 60. Oh my God, there ain't no more after that. 70 is pretty much, that's the end of you. And, yeah, it's hard to think, and it's not so much I've only got 10 years left. It's like I can hardly walk.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when I can't walk?
One of my Dave knows all about that. He's facing down the clock on physical limitations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I never really planned on living this long, so I don't really know what to do anymore.
Yeah, it's like I ran out of stuff. I planned for 40 years, and I hit 40 years, and I didn't have any stuff left to do.
Well, then your body also starts like falling apart, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do all this stuff, and the mind is willing, but maybe the body not so much, and then you're just like, what's the point anyway?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the actual point. Since I've started this YouTube channel, and I get so down on, like, for me to do a 1 hour video takes like 80 hours of hard labor that I hate. I absolutely hate doing all the physical work to put together a script and set up cameras, and because I'm not just out there saying, look how pretty my car is or anything. I'm going to these deep subjects that people are going to question everything. So I want every question answered before I even post. That way, nobody can come back and tell me I'm wrong or whatever. But from that, I've gotten about 300 people that listen to me and I consider to be friends. I don't consider them close friends because I don't really know them. I get to talk to a few through text. I got people like Ala Toledo, like yourselves, that I get to talk to kind of in person. But for the most part, it's like, my life is exponentially better than it's ever been because I went through my whole life with zero friends, zero contacts, no one to communicate with for 50 years. And suddenly I can talk to people. And now that I've talked for about 15 years, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm just done with it. I mean, I don't mind just sitting like in front of a camera like we're doing now and talking. But the stuff of like preparing and, going out and cutting the grass so that everything looks good when I set my camera up, and then, putting it just.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of work. I mean, doing the kind of stuff like you're doing, I know what you mean because I've tried to talk on like these kind of bigger subjects before, and just trying to do it off the cuff. It's really difficult because you're not going to cover everything the way that you want to, and you're going to forget and leave something out. And the amount of work that goes into, you almost have to write like a research paper first,
Yeah, it's horrible.
Right, it's a lot of work. And then too, if you're going to try to deal with like your setup and the cameras and all of the technology and stuff that's involved in it, and there's a learning curve there. A lot of people don't realize what an incredible amount of work it is just to make a simple video, much less one that is really involved.
Well, I always go over the top when I'm communicating. So I don't say, I feel kind of down. Let me take a break and I'll get back in a month. I just come on and I'm like, screw it. I'm done. I'm done with this crap. I'm never doing this again. This was my last video and I'm done. And then, of course, there's people like Al Toledo there and Carlos and a few of my friends that I talk to regularly. And they all call me and go, hey, we love you very much. And we would miss you if you don't make videos. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I don't know why I say stupid stuff like that. But in all honesty, there's some definite changes in the way I'm going to do things from now on. I have to try to save myself. My house is collapsing. I broke down on the side of the road yesterday with my junky truck, and it's like all my junk is falling apart because I'm doing videos. So I need to stop doing all that writing and just cut my grass and paint something or clean something. I've got to make my environment a little better. Right. Anyways, I still got this thing here. I don't know what all we got on here. But do you have, okay, let's see here. Oh, I think we actually covered this in the previous video, but would you recommend a move to others? I think we already talked about that, but would you, having experienced this, would you tell other people to do it, or do you like look at each person and try to assess what they're made of and how they would handle it?
Yeah, most people have a whole lot of resistance to this kind of change. You know what I mean?
We didn't do it all at once either.
No.
You know, we went for a couple months and came back, and then went for another couple months, and we moved around and saw different things. You know, we didn't just decide that we're just going to go 100 or 100% somewhere else. You know, it took us 4 or 5 years to get to the point where we're living down here year round. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was watching the video series, Dave was doing a lot, bolting the camper down to the truck. And I know this is a little bit off subject, but that was like a first step, getting to where you could actually travel around and at your leisure, not have to get hotel rooms and stuff. How long did you think about it before you finally decided to go buy a camper? That was a first step.
We bought the motorhome first.
Yeah, we have kind of a saga of like things there that like we could talk a long time on. We started out, we were going to sell our property and move full time into one of those big motorhomes, a diesel pusher. So we bought this diesel pusher, and it needed quite a bit of work, but we figured that we would be able to do a lot of it ourselves because he's very mechanical, and I'm handy as well. And we've done projects, lots of them. So that's what we were going to do. As it turned out, we were having difficulty selling our property because of the unique situation of the area that we live in. There's sort of an impediment there. So we decided, all right, well, we own the property, and it's fairly inexpensive for us to have it. So we thought, well, it's good to have it because it's just a place that we go to. But we still like to travel. However, having a house and a motorhome, that's too much. It was like...
Yeah, and the motorhome, it turned out to be too much work for me. It just, I thought I was in better shape than I was. And it takes, if you're on the side of the road and something big goes wrong, I need a couple weeks, to work on something that's kind of big. I can get it done, but if you're on the side of the road, you don't have a couple weeks. You got to get a tow truck, and a tow truck can break you.
Right.
With a diesel pusher, you don't just get a regular tow truck. You got to get a semi, it gets expensive fast, so...
So then
I was watching a guy in a big motorhome traveling and all happy, and he had a blowout, and they were stuck on the side of the road waiting for somebody to come fix a tire, and there's like one tire was $2,500. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that doesn't happen when you're going cross country in a Ford Escort. But I had a school bus, and I had a tire go out, and it was like $350 to change a tire. And I thought, you know what? Every tire on this bus is about to go. The brakes are about to go. All this stuff that's, that can break is about ready to break. And when I bought the truck I have now, which is a 1-ton diesel, I thought, okay, I can handle this. If something breaks on this truck, it's like a regular pickup truck. No, it ain't. Not at all. A diesel engine, if it needs rebuilding, is not $5,000. It's like $15,000. Tires, rims, yeah, that stuff is like twice as much as normal. Everything on it is so much more than normal. And I was sick to my stomach for a long time, worrying about if I get this thing running, am I going to be able to afford to go cross country in it? Mm-hmm. And then I ended up on the side of the road on Thursday and had to call a tow truck. So I'm already like $500 into this thing this month, and that's basically all of my mad money for working on my truck is gone in one little instant to do something I didn't even know needed done.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to weigh the cost versus the benefit versus like how much hassle is it going to be and all that kind of stuff. So for us, we decided that the motorhome wasn't going to work and that we might not be able to sell our property as quickly as we had maybe hoped. So we started looking around and we found this truck camper that this guy had really close by, and it was a kind of a wreck. He had gutted the inside of it and he wanted like $300 for it or something, I think. And it was pretty much just a shell. And we got that, brought it home and turned it into what it is today with solar panels and stuff, because we had traveled around by car in a little tiny Toyota Echo. But we disliked staying in the hotels, and which like that's an eye-opening experience. Like we got hotel stories from all across the United States, but we wanted also to be able to stay at the places that were beautiful. We don't want to just go to some interstate hotel all the time, you know, and not be able to spend the night in the mountains or the woods or whatever. And this thing was perfect for that because, you know, it's really small and yet it's contained in such a way that it provides a certain level of comfort, and we can bring a certain number of things along with us, and we have our own sleeping space, which is really the big thing, you know. It's like super nice to just be able to pull over someplace and sleep in your
y'all had y'all had that truck before you ever got the camper, huh?
No, we got the camper first.
Yeah, the guy delivered it.
Oh, really?
Right.
Then we looked around for a truck.
We had a 1-ton Chevrolet. What was like a 93 or 92?
No, it was a 3/4.
We had it like that as a farm truck, kind of work truck, and we sold that and we got the Ford diesel truck that we have now for the camper specifically. Otherwise, if we would have never had a camper, we probably wouldn't have, you know, got that truck either.
Yeah. I really stressed out over picking a truck, you know. I mean, I've always liked 6-cylinders. That's about only preference I had, which is like a Dodge Cummins is a 6-cylinder. But there's like people really lust after those. So it's not cheap to get one. And the trucks themselves, the Dodge trucks, can have a lot of problems. So I finally settled on the Ford diesel as 7.3 Power Stroke. Isn't that what y'all have?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it just seemed to me like they had a pretty good reputation, and you know, you just read and read and read about every truck that's available that you can do that with, and they all have problems. But Ford,
there's no perfect vehicle, just like there's no perfect anything. You know what I mean? And it's just sort of hedging your bets. And we've had a lot of those Ford trucks like that, and Dave really seems to like them. And
I worked on a race team in the
We've had good luck.
90s that always had Ford F-350 diesels. So I got real familiar with them. You know all the quirks and what you got to keep an eye on and things. You know, but it just
that's
okay.
definitely part of it too.
Yeah.
What your familiarity with something can outweigh whatever the cons are of it. You know, aside from like going out and buying a completely different model of truck, and now you're like, oh gosh, you know, let's learn this thing now.
yeah, well, you know, I think when I was growing up, my mom and dad always had those Chrysler minivans, and every year they would get one because they were in it, but they were changing. Like every couple of years, they make a new model. It's not even the same car, not built by the same people, not anything in it is the same. Yeah. But yeah, people would tell me, oh, Ford is terrible, or Chevrolet is terrible, or Dodge is terrible. I'm like, but they're just all cars. And it's not like any one manufacturer just has a reputation of always building good cars or always building bad cars. They would go out of business, but every year they change. This year Ford's the best, next year Dodge is, and you never know. You never know until you buy one. And you know, one person can have a fantastic experience with their car, and then they sell it to you right when it hits that year where everything is going to start going to pieces.
Yeah.
Well, the 7.3 was the best trucks Ford ever made.
I think so too.
Since then, they made them worse. I know it. I owned them. They're pieces of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, here's my take on it is that they were really kind of. I mean, the ones they have now are real high power and real small, like little bitty metal, lots of power, and so they burn out quicker. The Ford 7.3s were like a whole bunch of really heavy duty metal producing a reasonable amount of power. So that's what I like. I like something that'll outlive me, and it seems to me that I've chosen wisely at this point.
There's no replacement for displacement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, whether the new Ford's like a 6.0, but
Yeah.
it's like 1 million horsepower.
They're getting really ridiculous up there in the horsepower with some of those trucks.
You can put a chip on a 7.3 and get it comparable. You know.
Oh yeah, there's people that do all kinds of stuff. They put bigger turbos on them, and change the exhaust and whatever. But I'm happy. I just want to make sure that I can go fast enough to get into traffic. That's all.
Yeah, I want to be able to pass. When I pull over and pass when I want to, and the truck can do it. It's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it hauls our camper really well, and
it stops really good, handles really good.
That's a pretty light camper. It's a super small camper. It has no bathroom in it. It's just like a kitchen, basically, with some storage and a place to sleep. We have a 25-gallon water tank in there, but we don't have it hooked to electricity, so we have like a hand pump, similar to what you might use on a sailboat or something. And
I remember. I've seen it.
Yeah. And LED lights, which they consume a minimal amount of energy. The biggest thing, our biggest energy consumer is our little refrigerator. It's the dual voltage, kind of looks like a cooler, like an ice chest. It's like that. Mm-hmm. But that runs off of our solar panels and does a really good job too. We've got 300 watts of solar on there, and that allowed us to go into Baja. The first trip we ever took in that camper was down to Baja, and that gave us kind of a taste of like Mexico, and you never know what a place is really going to be like until you go there. I mean, you can spend time watching other people's videos and you can read about it, but there's nothing like putting feet on the ground, and being there.
It's weird when you cross the border. It seems like a completely different world. It looks different. It smells different. Everything is different. It's so cool. Weird how it changes so fast. There's a line on the map.
You can pick out all
I know.
They're the same. There's a lot of things that aren't so different. And yet at the same time, it's like, there's so much that's just like, wow.
Well, building codes has a lot to do with it. Their building codes are almost non-existent in most places. So people just build whatever they want, which is freedom. I think that's what you should be able to do. But
yeah, down here they had we had regular building codes, just like that. It was almost the same as every other state's national building code, and Hurricane Katrina came in. Well, some people thought, it would be best to build their houses up on pilings so that they wouldn't be destroyed by flooding. And some people thought, there's not going to be any flooding, so they built their houses on the ground. So the hurricane came through Katrina, and all the houses on pilings blew away, and all the houses on the ground blew away, and they came out with a new code. You have to be 17 feet above sea level, or 20. It's some ridiculous amount. And so these people are having to pay $100,000 for pilings before they even build a house. And when the hurricanes come, it still blows them away. It was just a stupid thing to force people to spend more money.
Yeah, down in Florida, you cannot afford to put a roof on your house because there's so many regulations, and they still all blow off when the hurricane comes through.
Yeah, I know, it's just stupid stuff, and it's like you think you're free, but by the time you work enough just to pay for the nonsense, there's nothing left over for you.
Yeah, we watched something the other day. I think you were watching it, and they were talking about the tax rate. And they were, there's always this debate. Is it better to live over in like Norway or somewhere where supposedly they have some of those Scandinavian countries, they say that the quality of life is super great, but they've got such high taxes and everything. And they said, well, when you start adding up all of the taxes that Americans pay through these various channels, of which there are many, and the more you try to do, like for instance, say, you're going to be ambitious and do good and have a business. Well, now you're going to get some more taxes. You know what I mean? Like you're getting penalized basically for trying.
And a lot of times you can't even afford to start a business. You know, like when we were doing mechanical contracting, the workman's comp, they wanted $30,000 up front for the insurance. I mean, that's really hard to come by just to start the year, you know, but.
And then they would tell you, well, if you don't use that amount or whatever, then we'll refund you some or whatever at the conclusion of the year, but you're going to have to report to us. It was almost like filing a whole nother income tax kind of deal, but to the insurance company now. You know, now I'm beholden to them with what I do with my business.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. With cars, you know, well, the old days.
Making a law that you have to pay for.
Go ahead.
It's kind of breaking up a little.
Once you. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Al Toledo, how are we doing over there? He's not there. Anyways. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, when they make it a law that you have to have health insurance, that is a tax. Anything that you are forced to pay by law is a tax. In my life, I figured up once how much money I made from the time I started work till the day I retired. I brought home, after taxes and fees, I brought home $1.88 an hour for 30 years of slave labor.
Yeah.
How and you know, and people look down on me like I'm some kind of a user. I'm using the system because I'm on disability now. It's like, who's using who? I was doing hard physical labor for $1.88 an hour. I'm not using anybody. But you know what? When I finally went on disability, and they said, okay, since you're on disability, you can get EBT, you can get an Obama phone, you can get free internet. Suddenly, I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, basically on welfare. And I'm supposed to be a good, patriotic American and reject that and just keep working.
Yeah, it's
you know.
You start to kind of like make these connections and see these things. I talked earlier about how in 2006, about that time, there was a series of events that were sort of unrelated, but they all coalesced in our lives. And that's what sort of led us into whatever, those conspiracy people, they all call it the rabbit hole, but whatever, we went down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And
we were living the American life.
Oh God, we had businesses and we were like ambitious and
motorcycles,
buying stuff. We were consumers. Boy, we were good little consumers. George Bush could have come over and like give us a little medal for going out and buying stuff after night. But yeah, we all.
Yeah, it's always good to it's always good to pick your. It's always good to pick your gods wisely. You know, you have the creator God that you can worship, or you can worship what they call the politicians. And the politicians have a list of things that make you a right, and but that always leads to the same place. There's no satisfaction in it.
No, and it's just. Yeah, like I said, us running businesses in the United States, we can definitely talk about that too, how we can see that like small businesses are really being impeded. And I think that it's by design. And I also think that the level of corruption that is like accepted and also just done by people because they're incentivized to do it because of all of the restrictions and just, you know, it's the only way to make it in that system. Dave and I, we tried to follow the rules and it made us less competitive.
Yeah. You got to kind of be a rule breaker or you'll never survive.
Right. So if you think about the world in the
I
context of that, the people who rise to the top, who are the politicians and the business leaders and whatever, those people didn't get there because they were like the kindest and the most, you know, like logical or whatever, you know, you want to put on that. They got there because they were the ones willing to fight as necessary to get there. And that means that it was unscrupulous, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you think about who gets to be the president of Earth, you know, or the Pope or whatever, if you look, not a single one of those people has ever done anything for mankind or even for another person. None of them. They always have some kind of a propaganda about all of the orphans and widows. They're all fed or whatever. But the reality is if you go back and look at their actual lives, they have ran human they've ever come into contact with, and why they get to be the president or the king or the pope or the emperor. It's never who is the most loved for their righteous works.
None of them followed the rules we have to follow.
No. You can't compete unless you are willing to break the rules. And those who break the rules the best climb to the highest level. Our system is rewarding bad behavior. So it's never going to end as long as we're going to do that.
Well, you think about this. Yeah, think about this. This is something that struck me, and I was already a political atheist before this even happened. Is that when they came out with this pretend we're dying by the millions, and bodies were littering the streets and all that. They said that small mom and pop businesses were unsafe. So they shut everybody down, but they allowed the big box stores like Walmart to stay. Something I noticed is that we were doing this for public safety. We wanted to isolate this dreaded disease. And the solution is to force every human on earth to go to Walmart because there's no place else to go. Yeah. Immediately after this pandemic started, I noticed that in Walmart doubled. You were bumping into people. How in the world is that safe if there's
well,
and it's so obvious,
He's breaking up.
Yeah. Uh-oh, we're not hearing any of this.
Well, hey, well, you know what, Al Toledo, maybe, can you hear me at all? Oh, okay. Well, I think this is a good point to break it off and just go on our merry way. There are a few other projects I'm planning on doing for NPCs. That would be a good project for us to do together, because y'all seem to be hip to that. But I don't know that I'm ever going to do it, because right now I'm everything has to be winging it. I'm not writing any more scripts. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take us out, and we'll call it today, back next week, and do something else. I don't know what yet. But y'all, thank Sandra and Dave, thank you for participating so much. And thank you to Shannon. Thank you for Al Toledo helping us out with this little series. And as always, you don't listen to us.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Anytime you want to talk, we can wing it.